We begin by praising Allah, Lord of Majesty and Honor Most High, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His copious prayers, blessings and peace upon the noble messenger. Indeed, from the sunnah of Jumaa is increasing salawat upon Nabi. So it's something to remember. This is why the Khadijs often they end their khutbahs with the ayah where Allah orders us to give salam upon the Prophet and salam. It's not the topic I'm going to talk about today. Today, I wanted to mention something. Allah mentions it here in a few places. وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ بِهِ عَلِيمٌ in Baqarah, and also وَمَا تُقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُم مِنْ خَيْرٍ تَجِدُوهُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ وَأَعْظَمُ أَجْرًا. Whatever good you do and you present in front of Allah, Allah knows about it. The first time in Baqarah. The second one, whatever good you do for yourselves, notice the أنفسكم, right? You will find it with Allah, and that is the greatest reward, what you do with Allah. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned, Kullu ma'rufin sadaqah. This hadith is agreed upon, Bukhari and Muslim. Every good act that you do counts as a charity. There is a longer hadith, I believe it's in Muslim, but it's famous for being, I think, hadith, amongst the first 5 hadith, hadith number 2 or 3, I think it is 3, in the collection of Imam al-Nawawi. The rich people used to give sadaqah, right, more than the poor did in Medina. So the poor of Medina came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam one day and they asked him a question. They said, listen, the rich fast as we fast and they pray as we pray, but they have excess from their wealth that we don't have, right? So if you think about it, most of us, when we pay the rent, we pay the fees and the bills and everything like that, we have a small amount left over, most of us, right? And we can give from what we can give from that. Some weeks we have some, and it's unfortunately becoming less given the education or the economic situation. So then the Prophet ﷺ didn't say to them, right, I say just leave them alone. He gave them alternative ways, meaning everyone has opportunities. If you think about it as a way to give and be charitable, is the concept, right? In basically every situation in your life, right? So then he started giving an example. So he said, look, to greet your brother in the morning with a smile of charity. So if you're nice to another human being, it's charity, right? To help your brother with his load, it's charity. It's like, go through examples, and he went through quite an example for us. The Sahaba shocked, made me shocked. He said, for a man to cohabit with his wife, it's charity. Sahaba shocked. How can that be when we're fulfilling our desires? He said, don't you see, if you did it in a way that's not right for you, it would be written as a sin. So the opposite. The point he's trying to say here is if everything is done correctly, there's a charity. Now the scholars of Islam mentioned for a deed to be accepted, an act of good to be accepted from a person, 2 conditions have to be required. First things first, niyyah, and this is the main thrust of the topic of the khutbah today. And the second topic, I'll make it short because obviously I understand I started a lot later than normal, but I'll try to get the point across, inshallah. And the second point here is the action has to be done in accordance with the sunnah. For example, so if we give from our zakat, it's calculated according to how the Sharia teaches it. Also, we give it not just to show off to the person how charitable we are, and there's something else to hold it over the person that you have leverage, right? This is the evil that Allah is describing in the Quran, right? And it will destroy those good deeds. But in order to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to make things easier for the people. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned this as kullu ma'ruf sadaqah, right? Now, the opposite of people who give sadaqah is what? So now what happened is, the Sahaba, some of them came and they said, look, now this hadith has become well known. The rich, obviously, the poor people, they weren't hiding knowledge, that's a sin in itself. So the rich people knew, okay, I can be charitable in other ways. So they said they started to do extra good deeds instead of by being nice to people. And he said that's a blessing that Allah gives to whom He wills. What you can do is, if you can compete, just remember, Allah will not withhold good from His slave. Yeah? It's not that He's going to give an opportunity to one person that He's not going to give to you. So for example, someone will say, well, you know, the Imam or the Khatib or whatever, right? Or the scholar has a great virtue that I can't match. Possible, very true. We have our own tests, by the way, the scholars have their own tests. Right? But that doesn't mean you're deprived from doing good. It may be that the one who's facilitated things, gets the mats out, cleans things, organizes things, makes the sweat effort, right? You'll have more reward than the person who just turns up and leaves. We don't know. These things are with Allah. They're hidden, right? Now, the opposite of giving is not giving. Now, the way that Allah describes not giving, miserliness is next to kufr, right? The word kufr itself is found as a famous statement from Sayyidina Ali. When they went from Makkah, which is a trading society, right? You go there, if anyone's been Hajj Umrah, when you go from Jeddah to Mecca, I remember seeing one very battered looking tree. There was no fields, nothing, right? It's a trading society. They didn't even have water until shortly before the birth of the Prophet, right? In that environment. Medina is a different situation. You have a look, there's lushness, there's water, it's humid around the environment. Ali had a statement, we hear it now, an Arab hear it, it's like, what's he saying? It's asbahtu kafir. And he smiled, he had muddy clothes on, he said, we become, what he meant by that, not we become disbelievers, no, we become farmers. Because the farmers cover the earth, right, with the dirt, right? Now what that means in Sharia, it means someone who covers the truth with falsehood or rejects it. This kind of kufr, this kind of miserliness is dispraised. Allah mentions وَيَقْبِضُونَ أَيْدِيهِمْ, right? Allah talks about disbelievers closing their hands, meaning they refuse to spend in the way of Allah. Allah also mentions, and this is a very harsh statement, Al-Qiyā fi Jahannam kullu kafārin, famous in Surah Al-Qaf, not Surah Al-Kahf, not chapter 18, chapter 50. Manna, and Allah describes it, right? Throw into Jahannam every obstinate or disbelieving, yes, obstinate disbeliever, right? Manna'in lil-khayr, one who stops good, mu'tadin marid, an aggressor and a doubter, means someone who's withholding. And the Prophet mentions in the part of the narration from Ahmad, inna ahla an-nari kullu ja'dhariyyin jawadin mustakbirin jama'in manna. Right, so Allah describes certain characteristics for a person who is from the people of the fire. The first one's they're harsh. Something happens you don't like, not patient. They're harsh against the people. This is the opposite of smiling. They're harsh, right? Pompous, thinks something special of themselves, and arrogant, right? They're containing this attitude of arrogance. And then Allah mentions Jumaa, they're withholding, they're taking all the money for themselves, right? Which we find rich people in society often are guilty of, right? The very powerful in society. Manna. It's one thing to hold the wealth, but then they won't give it to the poor. Jumaa and manna. This is the relevant thing. They'll gather the wealth for themselves and they won't distribute it to the poor. Our deen teaches the opposite. When Allah blesses us with wealth, we give. The minimum is to give zakat. No, but if you read the Quran very clearly, it's obvious that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us an indication that wealth is a blessing for someone who's blessed with intellect and can give it in the way of Allah. The Prophet also mentioned that it is impermissible to be, we wouldn't say jealous, but to think you have what someone else had, like that, in that sense, right? The closest word of jealousy in the in the English language, right? But except for two. Someone who's blessed with wisdom and he teaches the people, he acts guidedly, he acts righteously himself, and teaches the people, and someone who's blessed with wealth that he can spend it in the way of Allah day and night. So it's a blessing for a person in the right hands. So that's the second or third point. Allah mentions also when they do it, yura'un, right? وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَاعُونَ. They stop people from being fed, they're doing it for themselves. So they're showing off. In the example of this ayah, they're showing off with the salah, but it can be with sadaqah as well. We know the famous narration, right? When the first three people thrown in the fire, one of them is a kareem, a jawad, right? A person is very generous. You think that people look at him, he's a Muslim, he's spending the way of Allah, Allah won't accept it from him. He said, did you do it? And the honesty will be spoken there. Did you do it, or you did it, rather? Allah will accuse him, not even accuse him, will tell him the reality. People thought that you did it for goodness and charity, but you did it so people would praise you because you like being a famous person. You like being thought of as charitable and a nice guy, but you didn't do it for my sake. So ask your reward from that. You gave you thing. People praised you in the dunya, that's what you've done. Why do you expect reward in the akhirah? So whenever we're giving good, we should take a moment to clarify our intention. Or if we do it in the moment of thought and think about it afterwards, make sure that you ask Allah to accept good deeds from you. Stay humble, right? Now, the other way, and we find this a lot. Say, for example, it happens to us brothers, right? You have a business situation, maybe there's an accident with your car, practical example, right? And you need to a friend of yours, yeah? Well, I need X amount, maybe it's a fair amount, I need you to lend me £5,000, I need you to do this. You've got a business situation where someone passed away abroad, you need to get the tickets, whatever. The situation happens, these things happen to us. You give. Now, let's say, for example, you need something off the person, right? Now, you know he's in need of it, but then you remind him, look, I helped you out in that situation, I know you need it, but come on, man, you've got to pay me back now. Is this honest charity? It's not. This is what we call man or adha. One, the adha is having a person, man is reminding, a man is reminding people of the favors you've given them. Right? So this, Allah talks about this. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, it is clearly in Surah Al-Baqarah, La tubtilu sadaqatukum bil manni wal adha. O you believe, don't destroy your actions, don't destroy your sadaqah with manni, with reminding the people and hurting them, making them feel bad because they were in a bad situation, you helped them out. You didn't do it to please Allah, you did it to hold the leverage over the person, or it may be that you did do it to please Allah, but then your intentions were carried afterwards. The shaitan came to you and corrupted your intentions when you were in difficulty. That's not the way, right? Now, Allah mentions again, لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى, and Allah mentions it here clearly. كالذي, now Allah mentions, oh, you believe, don't destroy your sadaqah with man, right, with reminding people and hurting them. Allah gives an example. كالذي ينفق ماله رئاء الناس, like I mentioned, the one that Allah will punish, right? The one who spent his money to show off to people, to show that he's the big man, right? ولا يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر, but doesn't believe in Allah and the last day. Meaning the reward's the same. This person, if he doesn't believe in Allah and the last day, it's can look, we know, there's lots of non-Muslims, very charitable people, very nice people, right? Can their charity be accepted without shahada if they know? No, they can't, right? Allah says, don't be like that person. Meaning he's wasted his actions, he didn't even know. You know, don't do it to yourself. Allah's warning yourself, don't do it to yourself. Why? Because Allah is just. Where's the justice in Allah blessing you with wealth? You're giving it to other people, a good thing, but then hurting them with it. You're taking the thing that's good and turning it into evil. These are the examples we need to reflect upon in our own heads to clarify our intentions. It's very important we keep doing this. You might think it's a small, but it's a general principle. It applies in work. Think about it, right? When you're in, if you're in business or if you're in the office, someone can help you out with something, right? If you do it genuinely, it's sadaqah, straight up. Muslim or non-Muslim, doesn't matter. You help another human being, sadaqah. Allah mentions, the Prophet mentioned, kullu ma'ruf sadaqah. To help a human being, is it ma'ruf? Sadaqah. The old lady on the road, right? She's asking for the new check her iman, no, you go and help her, right? But then this is the thing. And afterwards you start holding as leverage, this is the problem, right? Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives an example, right? For me, this links to the whole bigger thing of iman. If you really think about what the attitude that's required is gratitude, you'll see this. يَمُنُّونَ عَلَيْكَ in Surah Al-Hujurat, Allah mentions about the Awan. When they came after a battle, they reminded the Prophet that they were doing him a favor. They acted like they were doing him a favor by becoming Muslim. Had we not come and become Muslim, you wouldn't have won the battle, this, that, and the other. They said, يَمُنُّونَ عَلَيْكَ أَنْ أَسْلَمُوا. They act like they've done you a favor by becoming Muslim. Allah mentions, لَا تَمُنُّوا عَلَيَّ إِسْلَامِكُمْ. Don't remind him or don't act like you did a favor by becoming Muslim. بَلِ اللَّهُ يَمُنُّ عَلَيْكُمْ أَنْ هَدَاكُمْ لِلْإِيمَانِ. Rather, Allah did you the favor by guiding you to Iman. Do you understand the point, right? In kuntum sadiqeen, right? If you're truthful, if you really were believers, you wouldn't do that. Why? Because you know that Allah guided you. You know that you should be thankful to Allah for guiding you to faith instead of holding favors upon others. Meaning, rather than think about what others have done for you, think about what Allah did for you. You've got £1,000, you gave it to someone. Who gave you that? Who gave you the ability, like for example, if you were born wealthy, who gave you the ability to maybe gain your education or have your business contacts that Allah blessed you with that deal? It was in your hands. We've all been in this situation. We're in a difficult situation. You don't know where the money's coming from. Everything's getting tight, and Allah blesses you with a new job, and your contract comes in, someone owed you money suddenly out of nowhere, and he pays you. Right? You had that money, then suddenly you give it to other person, right? Be thankful for what Allah's given you, and then you'll be rich. Not only will you be rich and enriched, but you'll be blessed to not have a difficulty in your life. Right? Now, Allah mentioned finally, the Prophet Prophet of Allah, he mentioned this, right? And then we'll end this part of the book, we'll get into Salah shortly. There are three people that Allah, He won't speak to them. Muslim reports this narration. Allah won't speak to them on the day of judgment. Yeah? First one, it's the first of it. Al-Mannan, الذي يعطي شيئا الذي لا يعطي شيئا إلا منا. Right? The Mannan, the one who doesn't give something except that he wants to hold a favor on someone. You can see it's manipulative behavior, isn't it? You show yourself doing good to the people, but you want influence. I remember I had an example. A local area I had, there was a masjid being built. There was something, subhanAllah, I noticed something in the first year of this masjid. Now they had, it was in the area, it was relatively cheap. They had a big building, it was worth £1 million. They paid it off in a year and a half. Unheard of. Normally, it will take people 3 to 5 years to pay off the, what they call the qadr, or the payment on the loan on the masjid. I noticed something. Every time I went to the masjid, right, I wanted to give something, more than normal. Even if I had £1, I started putting under, I thought, it's just me, because it was unusual. I noticed this feeling that I should give in the way of Allah, I should give to this masjid, right? When I was praying, and I asked another brother, every time you go in, do you feel like putting something in the box? And he said, yeah, it's the same. We all like, something's going on. I got to know the chairman, right, and I realized something had happened. So he said, look, I asked him about this, he smiled, he said, let me tell you something. He said, we had an honest intention to get this location in the center of town to help Muslims. And no one would have control over it, and it was for everyone's good use. He said, I'll give you an example. There was a rich family that came up in the big Land Rovers, whatever. We didn't know that they came from out of town, the masjid was being built. They said, look, we can clear off all of this, we'll give you £400,000 or £500,000, very wealthy people, but with one condition: you've got to put my father's name on the top of the thing, or you've got to do this, you've got to do that. Or he said this in my mouth. He said, Jazakum khair, take your money and go. No one is going to have leverage. This is we built this for the community. The community will take care of it. Within 1 year, the community raised that £1 million themselves. Right? Why? Because they could see these people had a sincere intention. Like I said, it was unusual. I've never felt that feeling before. Every time I go, come on, man, put it in. And it felt easy. Sometimes you give me something, oh man, that could go somewhere else. It felt good. It felt easy. It wasn't just me. Everyone was doing it all the time. They realized their coffers are filling up. So that's an example of a good niyat. So that's the first manna, right? وَالْمُنْقُ فَسِعْرَةٌ بِحَلْفِ الْفَجْرِ, another one, right? So the one who sells goods on false oaths. The classic example would be for us, we know is, for example, people are selling cars or technical things. If you know that there's a fault in your device, right, you shouldn't sell it by tricking the person. Especially if you fault and you say definitely there's nothing wrong by it, or like all that kind of stuff. It happens in our countries all the time, to be honest, right? That one Allah won't speak to because it's a big sin. You're using an oath to deceive the people because they're thinking, why is he going to lie, right? And the final one, Musbil is the one who lends his clothes out of arrogance as well, right? The one who does the non-clothes of garments below the ankles, so be careful of that. Ibn Sirin, Imam Ibn Sirin, one of the early Imams of the Tabi'in, he said he heard another man say to him, one day he was walking past and he had a conversation. He said, I did this thing for you for such and such a reason. Ibn Sirin said to him, be quiet. My friend, be quiet. But there's no good in an act of goodness if you remind him. He saw it happen in front of him. He said, I did this so I could do that. He said, be quiet. The good that you did is going to be finished. Don't say that, right? Imam al-Muwaddi, rahimahullah, he said that you should know an act of goodness has conditions that cannot be, without which it cannot be fulfilled or completed. And from that is protecting it from being broadcasted. Okay, people find out you gave sadaqah, whatever, that's not your fault. But if you go out, so you know I did this, I did that, right? No. Right? Concealing it from a rumor that draws attention to it. And from the conditions of the act of goodness is minimizing it in his own heart. If you gave some money, Allah blessed you with something. I remember that there's a brother I know, he came up to me, I didn't recognize him. He said, when you were young, when I was young, I used to read Quran at your mother's house, that's why I recognize you. I look the same, I'm older than him. I noticed he didn't come to the masjid much, this, that, and the other. And I said to him, brother, just out of interest, when did you start praying with me in the masjid? He said, only a few months ago, after Ramadan. I said, is there anything that happened and changed for you? He said, I was going through a very difficult time financially, he lost his job, other things happened, he was accused of doing things he didn't do, and he ended up, lots of things happened to him, really bad things. And he said something in my heart on the 27th night, they were asking for donations for the masjid. He gave me a few £1,000. He said, even though I knew I didn't even have a job at the time, I had saved up some money. And now, alhamdulillah, you see, he's always the first, if he's free, if he's not working, he's in the masjid, right? His attitude to life had changed, right? Because of the good he did. He didn't tell anyone else about it, right? I asked him, right? So he told me, because I wanted to know. Right. I've said, قولوا هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Inshallah, we'll finish up the second one. There's one final example that the Imam who scripted this khutbah gave. It's a beautiful example about Musa alayhi salam in Surah Al-Qasas, talking about the ideal example of not reminding people of people's failures. Right? Musa alayhi salam had a precipitous fall. Right? He went from effectively the stand-in son of Egypt to becoming the son of an emperor to a man who had nothing and was wanted for murder. Yeah, even though he didn't intend it, he was protecting another human being who didn't really deserve his protection. He runs out from Egypt, he's in Madian, which is northern Jordan area, that area, right? And when the daughters of Shu'aib are there, at the watering hole, at the time he has nothing. He has no home, he has no wealth, he has the clothes on his back, right? And he sees another people in difficulties, two young ladies in difficulty with all the men around him, because he's a strong man, mashallah. He takes their cattle, let's just say their sheep, to the watering hole. At that time, what does Allah mention? He made a dua when it was done. Rabbi inni bima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqiir. Oh my Lord, I'm in dire need of any good that you can send to me. Did he say to them, can you give me food? Is there anything? He didn't say anything to them. He did the good deeds for them because he saw that they were hard, they were in a difficult situation. And what did he say? He said to Allah, help me. So he turned a difficult situation in himself into helping other human beings and then asking Allah for help. From that situation, Jericho realized that there's a man who can help them. He married one of his daughters to him, and then he did all of the good of the ihsan he did for working for him for 8 years, and he said, if you want to do an extra 2 years from him, obviously he did that, because it was a goodness that he had seen. So let's think about that. The lesson from this example is each one of us will have our tests in life. Every human being will have his weakness, right? Every human being has a sin that they're inclined to. Some people it's financial sins, some people it might be substances, some people it might be the opposite, gender, it could be many difficult things. Other people might be holding their tongue when they're angry, right? I've seen this myself, right? For men, it's, for example, when we're angry, we might do something that can destroy a situation. For women, often it's holding their tongue when they're angry, right? These are just characteristic things. That's not, I'm not doing for a specific example. Every human being is different. You know yourself where your weakness is. But the one lesson you want to take is when Allah blesses you with an opportunity to do good, for friends or family, imagine this, take my example, right? Do that good, close the box and imagine you didn't do it. What will happen is, you've buried some treasure for you on the Day of Judgment. Why? Because if you do that good and you use it for an opportunity to get good, at the best, right, you would have got some good in the dunya, but at the worst, you would destroy the good you did in dunya, and you'll have a punishment